What's up, guys? Today we got the iPhone 12 versus the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Is this an upgrade that you should make? I think this is a tough sell for Apple to get iPhone 12 users to upgrade. So we're gonna go over everything that you will be getting that's new and see if it's worth it. Just on a side note, if you do want to pick up an iPhone 12, it's really one of my favorite iPhones to recommend. It's like you can find them around $400 renewed, and I just really like it. It's just an excellent phone for this price point. Alright, so let's go ahead and just dive in. Alright, so let's talk about the screen upgrade here. So the iPhone 12 has the XDR OLED display, 1200 nits peak brightness, 6.1 inches, 1170 by 2532, 460 for the PPI. The 15 has the LTPO XDR OLED, 120 Hz, 2000 nits peak brightness, 1290 by 2796. And 460 for the PPI. Basically, the thing that you'll notice is the dynamic island is here, and you can interact with the dynamic island with notifications, and it'll show you like timers like for Uber and stuff like that. And yeah, it looks better than the notch. Of course, the content looks a little bit more immersive. You also have slimmer bezels. That's really about it. The 120 Hertz is here, but from just watching people, especially iPhone people, they really don't notice the 120 Hertz, which is pretty funny. So, I've done this test with my family members as well. They use iPhones and they really don't notice 120 Hertz, but I think you'll notice it as time goes on. But I can't even say that's a real major upgrade because it seems like people who use iPhones really don't notice it. Also, the 15 Pro Max is definitely brighter outdoors, but the iPhone 12 is really not that, it's not like a dim phone in direct sunlight. So I think the upgrade here is actually pretty minimal because the iPhone 12 screen is still really good. Like, it's OLED, it's high resolution display, still fairly smooth for 60 Hertz. But I think like the biggest difference here is probably the notch, if we're gonna be real. So yeah, so it just comes down to the screen design. Is the screen design really upgrade worthy for you? That's something that you would have to come to grips with. Do you find yourself using the dynamic island? Me personally, the dynamic island, it doesn't support enough applications, so I kind of don't really interact with it as much. But yeah, so that's sort of the upgrade here. It's kind of it's an okay upgrade when it comes to the screen, right? Let's talk about the hardware. So there are some nice changes here, like you have a matte finish instead of the glossy finish on the 12, so you don't get as many fingerprints as you can see. And you also have, of course, the additional third camera on here, the telephoto lens. Now, the iPhone 15 Pro Max has the titanium design, so it's pretty light for a big phone like this, but from what we're seeing, it's not super durable, just from what we're seeing with the drop test and the durability test online. But like I said, honestly, I would just throw these phones in the cases anyway. I think iPhones are pretty fragile in general. Also, what's really nice here is the 12 is kind of sharp and boxy. So they've sort of smoothed that out on the 15, so it's a little bit more comfortable to hold. And again, realistically, most people will put a case on their phone. You also have a nice addition here with USB Type-C as well too. So I think that's a big thing. It's something that I really like. And then you also have the action button on here as well too, so you can pretty much map the action button to do really whatever you want. You can open up applications, flashlight, so that's also something that is a nice addition. So hardware wise, they're both IP68 dust and water resistant as well too, and they both support the MagSafe charging, wireless charging, all that good stuff. Yeah, so I think hardware wise, it's a pretty decent upgrade. Alright, so let's talk about specs a little bit more. If you are thinking that you're going to get just a much faster device, that's really not the case here. Even though the Geekbench scores are, significantly better, the average person really won't notice too much of a difference. And honestly, the average gamer really won't notice a difference. You really will have to be doing some intensive stuff on your phone to really notice the difference. And I don't think it'll be by like a large margin. So you can see the single core scores and then the multi-core scores. So you can see there's, a big difference here in terms of scores. The 15 Pro is just a really fast chip as far as, Geekbench goes and all that stuff goes. But if you get into like a general speed test here, like I said, you really won't notice a big difference when it comes to overall speed. It's really a minimal difference here. You might notice in terms of like heavier games, the 15 Pro loads pretty quickly. But like I said, it's not worth the money you would pay, thinking that you're gonna get a much faster phone. The 12 is still pretty fast when it comes to animations and stuff like that. Like I said, it almost feels no difference. The only thing that you'll notice really is probably the 120 hertz, right? It does feel smoother when swiping and stuff like that. But as far as like just opening up applications, you really won't notice too much of a difference when it comes to the overall speed. So like I was saying, you know, with performance, the iPhone 12, it is running the Apple A14 chip, 64 gigs of internal storage, 4 gigs of RAM. But like I said, it still plays games really well, and honestly, you really won't notice a difference, the average person. I think the biggest difference here is since the 15 Pro does have the 120 hertz display, it can play PUBG at 90 frames. It's not quite compatible yet. They haven't updated it yet, but it will. But that's like the biggest difference. But the 12 still plays this PUBG at, you know, HDR Extreme fairly easily and very smoothly as well too. So again, not a big difference when it comes to gaming performance. So I would say, you know, Apple did show off the being able to port console games to this new Apple A17 chip. But yeah, how many people are going to be playing console games on their phones? You know, I don't know, but it is pretty cool to see that. But again, I think for most people, I don't know how many people would even do that. But if you're like a hardcore gamer, that might be something that is you know, appealing to you. And also, like I said, you have the Apple A17 chip on the 15 Pro, and you have 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of internal storage on this model. So let's talk about the actual camera upgrade here. So with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, you have a 48 megapixel standard now. So it takes some pretty high resolution shots you can shoot in RAW now, and you know, get some good amount of detail here. 12 megapixel periscope telephoto. It now has the 5 times optical zoom, 25 times for the max zoom, and then you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It's using 4K 60 on the front and back with a 12 megapixel selfie. There's a macro mode on here. There's a cinematic mode on here as well too. So with the iPhone 12, it just has the standard dual camera setup, 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You also have 4K 60 and then a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60 as well. So let's just go ahead and check out these side-by-side stills and let me know what you guys think. Speakers max volume. So it's a pretty big difference with these speakers actually. You get way louder sound on the 15 Pro Max, way more bass. Overall, it's a very nice speaker upgrade. Both of these phones have Face ID as well too, and they pretty much feel identical. There's no actual upgrade with that. Finally, I think this is probably the second biggest upgrade here, is really the battery life. The 15 Pro Max has some pretty good battery life. It's got a 4,441 milliamp hour battery, 25 watt wire charging, wireless and reverse wireless charging, and then of course you have the reverse wire charging since you have the USB Type C now. And battery life is really good on this phone. It easily lasts a full day, day and a half, depending on if you're a lighter user. The iPhone 12's battery life is pretty good. Even with this refurbished model, I can still squeeze a day out of this phone. Let's see what the battery health is. 88%, yeah, so not bad on this one. I still get really good battery life on the 12. Easily get over 6 hours of screen on time on this phone. And again, battery life varies for, what type of person you are, right? Whether you're gaming hard or you're just social media, just light use. It really depends, but battery life is pretty solid. I'm more of a lighter user on my phones. And this one also has the wireless MagSafe and then the standard wireless charging. So battery life I think is actually a pretty nice upgrade. It's noticeably better on the 15 Pro Max for sure. So that's pretty much it. Is this enough to make an iPhone 12 user upgrade? Be sure to let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.